Jeff.
5, 4, 3.
All right, that's got to be a tremendous honor to be there. Your family in the White House, in the Rose Garden, and we have a picture on screen right now. There are a lot of people. Who are all these people in the background?
Well, so that's the best part. Those are the 54 state and territorial teachers of the year.
Okay.
So all of the state teachers of the year got to join me there that day. Each one had the opportunity to go into the Oval Office, shake hands with the president, talk with him for a moment or two, and then because I was the national teacher of the year, I got to bring my family in as well. My family exited out of the Oval Office and came out to the Rose Garden to join everyone else, and then the President, Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan, and I walked out to the Rose Garden.
Oh, there.
The President spoke for a few moments, and then he actually turned the podium over to me and allowed me to speak from the podium there in the Rose Garden.
Wow, that's pretty nice. Now
that's pressure, I'll tell you what.
That is real pressure, and I assume you had your remarks ready at this point.
Absolutely.
Right?
Those were the only remarks that I actually read from a script from this whole year. I had to have them approved by the White House.
That's right.
But I don't think they wanted me going rogue on them.
That's right.
So they wanted to know what I was
now
I've
got some things to say here. That's not probably a good point.
No.
Good point.
But I will say this. Meeting the president was such a huge honor, not only for me, but for all the teachers of the year that were there, and for all of educators throughout the United States. Because at that moment, education was in the heart and the minds of the U.S. government. And that's what that day was really about. As for the president himself, I say with a huge amount of respect that he treated me like I was a normal guy.
Right.
And I say that with the most
that.
Respect possible. Is he treated us as though we were just normal people. He gave my son a fist bump. He gave a high five to my daughter. And gave a big hug to my mom. So such an honor to be there in the White House.
Well, that is wonderful. It sounds like a very special moment as this. So, but now after the Rose Garden, what happened? I guess you jump on a plane and you start touring, right?
Yeah, you start touring. You start doing a lot of those education conferences and meeting with a lot of folks. I'm actually out of the classroom this year on a 1-year only leave of absence.
Okay.
We'll go back into the classroom this coming fall. I know I get my classroom back.
Okay.
I actually wrote my name on my desk, underneath, so I get my desk back.
Okay. All right. That's good.
And I'll return to the same teaching schedule and the rest.
All right. You're going to have to come down from this cloud back down to the practical and down, feet back down on the ground again.
Yep,
but,
back to reality.
But you have a passion for this, and so it's got to be a very comfortable place to be back in the classroom with students. Tell us about your classroom. What's it like as for you, but also what's it like for the students in your classroom? Sure. And I want to know what it's like. If I'm the student coming in, what can I expect and what happens in that class?
Well, the first thing you have to understand is that I teach in a very small school. There's only 400 kids, grades 9 through 12, so about 100 students per grade level. So with a small school, sometimes you get a lot of different responsibilities. So I teach chemistry, physics, and engineering all during the school day. And most people hear that and they go, oh, the hard stuff, right?
Right.
And that's my job, is to overturn that stigma.
Right.
So when kids come into my classroom, the first thing that we do is not science, but instead develop relationships.
Okay.
We're working on developing a positive relationship between the student and the teacher. So I think that the best teachers out there spend more time studying their students than students do studying the subject. I need to learn a lot about my students so that I can take something like quantum mechanics or something like wave-particle duality of an electron and make it relevant to them. See, we're all the same. All people are the same. We pay attention to things that are relevant to our lives. And so that's my job, is to make science, to make chemistry, physics, and engineering relevant for my students. So that means we launch rockets, we blow stuff up on the football field, we make sure the kids are doing hands-on activities.
And I've read some of the material. There's a robot competition or something going on. What's that about?
Science is a lot of different things, right? But my students didn't have access to robotics. We weren't teaching computer science in my school. So I went out with parents in my community and raised over $25,000 to buy a number of robot kits. And we bought 100 of these. The trick is we don't keep them. We send them out for free to any school in Washington State, whether it's public school, private school, alternative school, after-school programs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whoever. We'll send them to you for free. You keep the robot kits for 6 to 8 weeks. Then you come back to Zillow High School and we have the Zillow Robot Challenge.
Okay, there it is.
Totally free program. But we also invite guest presenters to come in, like the 53rd Explosive Ordnance Division of the U.S. military,
Okay.
also known as the Bomb Squad.
All right. Oh, yeah.
They bring
Very
their
interesting.
bomb squad robots in. They blow stuff up on the football field, but they show kids the connection between their robots and the robots that the military uses. We have a lot of
Right.
other guest presenters. But it's programs like that
Right.
where some people say, oh, you're the robot guy, you're the robot teacher. I say, "Hey, I haven't taught a robot a day in my life. I teach kids, right?
Right.
The technology is the method that we use to reach students. Technology is not actually the goal. The goal is students who are going to become productive members of our society.
Right. Right.
The technology and all the rest of this is the technique or the method that we use to get them there.
And you never know what will spark in that individual student and where they will go as time moves on. So
There's some kids where I think I have a really strong connection with them. And graduation comes, and they give me a big hug afterwards, and I kind of expected that. And then there's always the kid that comes up and gives you a big, huge hug, and is crying on your shoulder that you never realized you had that connection with. You never realized just how much of an impact you made on them. And those are pretty special times.
that has to be very, very special times.
Yeah.
All right, let's turn to just education in general here in the United States. There's a lot of controversy actually across the board, and everybody has an opinion about teaching and teachers and education generally. Sometimes it's very polarizing kinds of responses you hear from people in the U.S. What's your take on education right now? Are we moving in the direction we need to? And I could ask the tough question: what's wrong with education? And maybe what's right with education as well. But give me the thoughts on education in general in the U.S.
Sure. I think first and foremost we need to realize that education in the U.S. is actually doing much better than most people are being led to believe in a lot of circles. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certainly areas that we need to improve upon. Sure. There is an achievement gap. It is wide, and we need to address it. But at the same time, if you look at the level of performance of students in the 1970s versus the level of performance of students today, it's better. And the students are achieving at higher levels. Do we need to continue to improve? Absolutely. So that begs the question of, okay, so how do we improve? Okay. Well, let's think about the classroom for a minute. Those chemistry, physics, and engineering classes that I teach, every single one of those counts for college credit. Those are hard courses.
Right.
I'm an adjunct faculty member at 3 different universities, so kids that take classes from me are earning college credits in high school. They are hard classes.
Right.
If the first thing I did when those kids came in was tell them what they were doing wrong, they wouldn't show up the next day. I mean, they already know that they have a daunting task in front of them.
Right, sure.
And then if all I do is beat them down, they're not going to come back. We need to take that understanding and realizing that what I do with those students instead is praise them, show them what they're doing right, so that they have the energy to improve.
Right.
We need to take that and scale it up to the education system.
Okay.
So for our teachers, what we should be doing is celebrating the things they're doing right, praising the schools for the programs that are going well, actually putting up billboards, about the positive things in education, so that the rest of us have the energy to improve. Sometimes people equate education to the business world. Right. And they want to run education like a business. Well, in business, if I came to you and said, I just need another raise, and then I'll do much better. That's never going to work, right? No, it's not. In business, you go first with, here's what I'm doing right, now will you give me a raise? It's always about the positive first before having room for improvement. That's what we need to do in education. Focus on the positive more. You mentioned what's wrong in education. Right. That's what's wrong is that we're looking for the things that are wrong instead of looking for the things that are right.
So our focus is really on that, and certainly in the media, and that's that sensational side of media, and that's what we hear in all of those news and media broadcasts is the trouble, the things that are going wrong, as opposed to the positive.
Well, you want to be sensational in media now? Come out with nothing but positive stories for a week. That would be earth-shattering. That would rock the world.
I'm not sure we're ready for that, but I would invite that at any time. So when we talk about education in a general sense, also we're talking about accountability and testing, and there are a lot of schools who are now the systems in the states they're grading schools. Sure, you get a grade for your school as entire, and that relates to funding as well. So talk a little bit about your view of this testing that's going on. It seems to be almost a paramount as opposed to the teaching to the passion and finding the positive and helping that student along. We're dealing with making a test score for our school and in order to get funding. That sounds like something's wrong with education right there too, but tell us your thoughts.
You know, teachers in general, I don't think teachers are against testing. Okay, I really don't. We're teachers. We kind of invented testing. You know, I mean, it's a thing that we do. But at the same time, in my classroom, if all I did was grade based off of the final exam, the only thing that mattered was the final, I'm pretty sure I'd have parents taking me down to the school board for inappropriate grading practices. At the same time, if I never gave a test in my classroom, I'm pretty sure the colleges wouldn't let me count it for college credit either.
Right.
Testing has a role, but it's not the role. It's not the thing that we should be focused on. You know, tests are part of the grade that I use, but I also use lots of other methods too, from assignments to labs to hands-on activities, you know, to projects and other things. We have to have it as part of the dynamic, but not be the dynamic. You know, and that's really the difference. When you start looking at test scores, you're trying to take something that is very personal, learning, and turn it into something that fits in the slots. And we just don't work that way. You know, as a parent, I understand that much more now. My son is in first grade. And you know, honestly, when we go to the parent conferences, I'm not really that worried about how he's doing in math, how he's doing in reading, and how he's doing in the rest. You know what I'm really worried about? Does he have friends and does he play nice at recess? That's what I'm really worried about. I'm worried about his social development. And a lot of parents are worried about that too. When I talk with parents one-on-one, their concerns and their worries aren't around these test scores. You know, so tests need to be a part of it, but they shouldn't be all of it. We need to be listening to our parents too. That's really, I think where we need to be in education.
Right. All right. That sounds good. I appreciate you talking in that way. I feel the same way. So what's on the future horizon? If you had a crystal ball and you were looking at the future of education and where we're going, where do you think? We talked a little bit about what we need to do. What's on the horizon? We are here at a television studio, and there's a lot of technology. You and I talked about that prior to this, and we know that technology is a big part of education now. As you look on the horizon, where is this moving? Just give us some of your thoughts about that.
Well, you know, this is my 13th year in education. And when I started teaching, I was in a classroom that had a chalkboard. Literally a chalkboard. And I was excited the second month of the year when I got the white chalk instead of the yellow chalk. You know, so it was a little clearer to read. Right?
That's good.
These things did not exist at that point in time. You know, these cell phone things were not around, right? This was not part of education 13 years ago. And then slowly over time, texting became a big deal, you know, within classes. It is a big deal now. So we started banning cell phones because they were starting to distract. But at the same time that we were banning cell phones, we were also trying to run, you know, extra levies or extra bonds to buy technology so that kids could access the internet in class. And yet we're banning phones at the same time. Now our phones...
Kind of a mixed message.
It is a mixed message. It is a mixed message. So what we need to get to the point is where these tools become allies, you know, in education. We need to figure out how to leverage them. The technology is still so new that teachers still don't know exactly what to do with them yet. Yes, there's a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of different ways and different techniques, but we're still in the early stages of utilizing technology within the classroom. You know, just like the VCR did, you know, in the 1980s, the VCR became a tool for teachers to show parts of the world that were previously not showable to their students. But the VCRs did not take over the place of the teacher. We didn't just start popping in tapes, tell the teacher to leave, and the kids would just get the information. In the same way, the internet, technology, social media, and the rest is going to aid teachers, but it's not going to kick teachers out of the classroom. We're still going to need those relationships. We're still going to need the teachers to be there as guides to all of this information. So as much as technology is going to change things, I still see teachers as the #1 most influential thing in a student's life.
I also know that there's a big movement, certainly at universities across the nation, to move toward online instruction. So give us a thought about, first of all, have you had an online course yourself? And have you taught an online course? Okay. And so give us your thoughts about that.
So I've both taken some online courses. I've also taught online as well. Adjunct faculty member for Central Washington University in their education department. So I taught other teachers in an online scenario. And one of the first things that you learn in an online environment is a little bit of anonymity. You know, even
Right.
even though your name is on there, people feel a little bit more bold about how they're speaking or how they're communicating with others. And so there is still a relationship dynamic when you're teaching online. What I found though is that the best use of online materials is in a blended environment where
Okay.
you have both in-person and online materials. You know, within my own school, you know, have my lessons online. I have videos that my students can download. They have screen captures from some of the lessons that we're doing in case somebody is absent. So these are resources for students to use, but I still think that the best has some in-person interaction as well.
Right. All right. All right. That you heard it here, right here, ladies and gentlemen. We do a lot of video for our television station here at Columbus State University, and we have permission to rebroadcast TED Talks, for example.
Sure.
Now, there's one that we've shown several times on our programming schedule, the Khan Academy.
Absolutely.
All right, so you know, then they talk about the reverse classroom with that, where the students are assigned the homework, which is really watch the videos, and then they come in and do homework in the class, that kind of thing, the reverse classroom. Give me your thoughts about the Khan Academy approach in this reverse classroom notion.
Absolutely. You know, the reverse classroom, also sometimes called the flipped classroom, I've actually used it within my own classes before. You know, I was using screen captures about the same time that Sal Khan was getting started. You know, I didn't know about him or anything like that, but was using it as a resource for students who needed a little bit of extra help. You know, and I really think that it can be useful. There were times when my own children were born, and so I took a short leave of absence from the school district for 2 or 3 weeks, and so I did all of my lessons that way. I would record them at night on a screen capturing device on a tablet PC, and then play those videos for students in class. It helps. It's a way to broadcast information. Is it the only way that you can teach? No, but it's certainly a tool that can be used by teachers. But again, it's all about how you use it and whether or not it's being done effectively or not.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. That's very interesting. We're moving. Sometimes that technology is moving ahead of where we're at the moment in our teaching approaches, and sometimes the latest and newest gadget and technology seems to take precedent over what we know works, and not the other way around. Maybe it should be incorporated in a better way. All right. Jeff, thank you for being with us today. I have one more question I'd like to ask. Now, in your chemistry, I had trouble with chemistry when I was coming along in high school. Give us a quick mini lesson of something from chemistry that we should know, our audience should know here. Something from your high school class that you can leave us with in terms of a quick chemistry lesson.
You know, I think anytime in chemistry, no matter what subject you're trying to teach, you need to make it relevant to you, right?
Okay.
So if we're talking about a oxidation reduction reaction in chemistry, sounds up here already.
All right.
Sounds up there. The first thing you need to understand is that chemistry is always happening. So I don't know if you've ever made guacamole before or not. Have you ever made guacamole?
I've tried.
You've tried? Okay,
yes.
So you take some avocados, you take maybe a few tomatoes and everything, and you squeeze a little bit of lemon into it. But you don't taste the lemon very much. So why do you put the lemon in? Well, lemon is very sour. Things that taste sour are acidic. They're acids. You put acids in so that the guacamole doesn't turn brown. That browning is oxidation. So you're actually you're doing an oxidation reduction reaction. You're actually stopping the oxidation from happening by putting a little bit of acid in there. You don't have to put lemon in. You can take some vitamin C, crush it up, put it in there as well.
Okay.
You could take a little bit of lime and put that in there. You could use orange if you wanted to. Anything that tastes a little bit sour, a little bit acidic, will stop the browning. Do the same thing to a fruit salad. Chemistry is cooking. Cooking is chemistry. So when you're teaching a chemistry class, as long as you talk about things like what's happening when water boils, you know, when you're making macaroni and cheese, why you put a little bit of salt into the water first. It's not actually to change the flavor or anything else, but it actually raises the boiling point of water. The water gets hotter in the liquid form, so that when you put the macaroni in, it's actually going to boil or cook faster. So there's lots of different things that you can talk about within chemistry that relates back to the real world. That's what we need to do with all of our subjects, make it relevant.
I like it. And I'm beginning to get the idea of why you are Teacher of the Year, just with that little example right there. Thank you so much, Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure here at Columbus State Television to have Jeff Charbonneau, who's the 2013 National Teacher of the Year, with us here in the College of Education Health Professions. We're glad you joined us, and Jeff, thank you so much for being with us, And continue to watch Columbus State Television. We'll see you next time.